The Houston Texans are coming off of back-to-back 4-win seasons, and from an outside perspective, especially when you are a combined 8-25 over the past 2 years, there doesn't seem to be that much to look forward to, and that this franchise is in a very bad state. And while I would agree in the sense that the Texans certainly aren't going to be a 12 or 13 win team in 2022, believe it or not, there is a lot to look forward to this fall if you're a Texans fan, and this team's preview is not going to be just 10 to 11 minutes of saying how bad they have been over the past few years and me constantly shitting on them. There's a lot to look forward to, and we are going to dive into everything, both good and bad, in today's video, and without further ado, let's begin. And we are starting today's video by discussing second-year quarterback Davis Mills. And out of all of the 2021 quarterbacks, from Trevor Lawrence, who was one of the best prospects we've seen over the past 10 years, to the rise of Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, and everyone else, Davis Mills finished second in their rookie season with 16 passing touchdowns, behind only Mac Jones, who led the way with 22. Davis, like every rookie quarterback from this class, certainly struggled at times, and without a doubt his worst game was in week 4 of his rookie season, which was a 40-0 loss in Buffalo. Buffalo's defense was one of the best last year, and they absolutely feasted on a rookie quarterback, making his first career road start. And there is a lot more to being a successful quarterback in the National Football League than having a good TD to INT ratio, but if you take away, again, far and away the worst game in his rookie season, Davis would have finished the year with a very respectable 16-6 TD to INT ratio, and not surprisingly, the Texans didn't win a lot of games last year, as their point differential was a woeful minus 172, which was the worst in franchise history. However, this offseason they made a big trade that could very much propel them in their rebuild by acquiring not one, not two, but 3 first-round picks for now former Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson. And for a team that is rebuilding, they had a solid draft with the potential of absolutely smashing it out of the park. Derek Stingley was a lot of teams' top corner in the draft, and Kenyon Green was one of the best guards. And the Texans' offensive line, for those that may not know, is solid, and Kenyon will only help with this. Titus Howard, a offensive tackle, did have a rough start to his career, but allowed just 2 sacks in all of 2021. And on the left side, Laramie Tunsil is a good tackle, and their offensive line situation is a lot better than what other contending, for that matter, NFL teams can say. And that's one reason why I like what the Texans are doing from a long-term perspective. Sure, the receivers may not be the best in Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins, but let's also get something clear. They're not anywhere close to the worst duo in football, and this is still, at the end of the day, a rebuilding team. And Brandon Cooks has quietly amassed 6 1,000-yard years out of his last 7, and that includes back-to-back 80-plus catch, 1,000-plus yard years to start his Houston tenure. Nico Collins is a promising young receiver and a player who had 33 catches for over 440 yards last year, and a guy I am very high on and expect to take a step this year, along with his fellow 2021 draftee, Davis Mills. Receiver John Mechie, which we will now address, was one of the Texans' second-round picks this year from Alabama and was diagnosed with leukemia before the preseason even started, and forget football. From a human standpoint, we want Mechie to get better and only wish him the best. He is sitting out the entire season. The Texans used their other second-round pick on Jalen Petrie, a talented player in the secondary from Baylor, and very quickly we're looking at a draft class with multiple starters in Stingley, Kenyon Green, and Petrie, and perhaps even a 4th and 3rd round linebacker Christian Harris. Houston, like everyone else, knows how loaded the AFC is and plans to eventually have to stop a receiver like Jamar Chase or a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes with their season on the line, so why not go get the best corner in the draft in Derek Stingley and a damn good prospect who kind of fell into their laps in the draft in Jalen Petrie, knowing you're not only going to have to stop these guys, but also a quarterback in your own division who's expected to take a big step this year in Trevor Lawrence. These guys aren't going anywhere, and I like what the Texans are doing to get ahead to try and stop these guys. And the Texans have a Week 6 bye this year, so taking a look at their first 5 games, they start at home against Indy, then go to Denver. In full disclosure, I expect them to lose both games, but again, it's about a new culture and competing with a lot of these teams. They were outscored in 2 games last year by Indy with a combined score of 62-3, and immediately think, what is there to buy into? But this team beat the Titans last year by 2 scores, and the Titans were the number 1 seed in the AFC. Week 3 in Chicago is a very winnable game for Houston, and will also be a great measuring stick for Derek Stingley, depending on how much they plan to mirror him against Darnell Mooney of the Bears. And by the way, we're not going through all 17 games for the Texans, discussing what could go right and wrong, but to sum the first 5 games up, I think they can be a 2-3 team at the bye. And given they beat Tennessee last year and nearly swept them for that matter, this is the typical team you do not want to let hang around. If there was one positive thing to take away from the 2021 Texans season, despite a forced joke like I'm glad it's over, they were down 21 points to Tennessee in a meaningless, for them at least, Week 18 game and nearly pulled off the comeback despite Ryan Tannehill throwing for 287 yards and 4 touchdowns. And while I'm sure there were people who questioned the Lovie Smith hire, or in a lot of ways thought they were kind of sticking him out there like they did with David Culley, and kind of be a puppet for how many games they are more than likely going to lose this year, with Culley, I would agree, but with Lovie, I would not. There's going to be a much improved defense, and they're going to make significant strides on both sides of the football. And on top of it, there were several new head coaching hires this offseason, as in more than usual. And while I do like what the Texans are doing, this is a very valid question to ask. What top head coaching candidate would have honestly wanted to go there 6 months ago? Some of the other teams that were hiring in this cycle had a lot more to offer than the Texans could, and unlike the draft where you choose the player that's going to play for you, the head coach hiring process is in a lot of ways like recruiting. Would you have blamed Doug Peterson for choosing Jacksonville to coach Trevor Lawrence, and at the time, because this was obviously before the draft, have 2 first-round picks, including the number 1 overall pick, knowing whoever the team selects are going to improve the roster? No, you wouldn't blame for Doug choosing that, and not to mention Jacksonville, Florida over Houston, Texas. So in a lot of ways, I do believe Lovie Smith is the right guy for the Texans job. A head coach who has been through a shit ton of adversity, a players coach that several great former Bears have came out and said they loved playing for him, including 2018 first ballot Hall of Famer Brian Erlocker. For clarity, I don't think Lovie is going to lead the Texans to the 2024 AFC Championship game or anything crazy like that. I believe this is going to be a 2-year term or so for Lovie, and he is going to be the guy used to get this franchise back in the right direction. And earlier we discussed the Texans rookie class, and they have a player who will be, in a lot of ways, the darling of some fantasy leagues this year, and that is Damien Pierce. He was their lone 4th round pick, and for any fantasy players that are looking for a kind of deep sleeper, Pierce is your guy. The trio of Mills, Pierce, and Cooks certainly doesn't have the ring of an Allen, Cook, and Diggs, but will be productive. And the Texans finished 32nd in rushing yards last year and also tied for last with 8 rushing touchdowns with the Giants. And full circle, I realize I praised the Texans offensive line earlier, but I wouldn't expect much when your leading rusher is a 31-year-old Rex Burkhead leading the charge with 427 yards in 16 games. That's awful, to say the least, and Pierce averaged 5.7 yards per carry in the SEC in his final season with the Gators, and had an absurd 13 rushing touchdowns on just 100 carries. That obviously won't translate, but he is one of several rookies among many on the Texans to believe in. Don't get me wrong, 2022 will be a long year for Houston, and I think their ceiling is about 6 wins, and even that may be a win high, but not everyone in this conference or in the NFL is going to be the king of the hill or the top dog. The Texans are, in a lot of ways, doing the little things right, and over times, little things add up in a big way. And that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, now is the time I ask you to please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, please join the Discord. The link is in the bio. And until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.